So let's talk about something that's a massive challenge for anyone in IT today, just how complex our networks have become. We're going to be digging into Cisco's software-defined access, or SD access for short. It's a solution that promises to get us away from all that manual, error-prone configuration and move us toward a network that's automated and, well, intelligent. It's a total reimagining of how we do things.
All right, here's our game plan. First up, we're going to set the stage by looking at why we even need a change. What's wrong with traditional networks? Then we'll introduce the SD access solution, pop the hood to see how its fabric actually works, and then we'll unpack all the key benefits. And finally, we'll see how it all pulls together to create a brand new way of thinking about networking.
So let's dive right in with the challenges. I mean, for decades, network engineers have been fighting the same battles, right? Manual config errors, security policies that are all over the place, and troubleshooting that takes forever. And these problems, they just get worse and worse as our networks get bigger, with more devices and more users.
This slide just nails the three biggest headaches of old-school networking. First, secure onboarding. You've got users, IoT devices, personal phones. Trying to get them all on the network securely is a huge challenge. Then there's the complexity. We're still managing most networks one box at a time, with engineers typing commands into a CLI. It's slow, it's manual, and a single typo can cause a massive outage. And third, issue resolution. When your wired and wireless policies are in totally different worlds, finding the root cause of a problem feels like looking for a needle in a haystack.
And let's really zoom in on that deployment nightmare. Just picture it, configuring hundreds of switches, one by one. A single device can take hours of work. That means a campus-wide rollout could literally take weeks of manual labor. And since there aren't great ways to test your changes beforehand, the risk of a misconfiguration bringing down a critical service is always hanging over your head. This old way just can't keep up with how fast business moves today.
And security? Oh man, that's a whole other can of worms. Traditionally, we've used things like VLANs and access control lists, ACLs, to segment the network. But what happens is you end up managing this sprawling, tangled web of hundreds of VLANs and incredibly complex ACLs. It becomes a constant battle just to keep your policies consistent for your wired and wireless users, which makes true role-based access almost impossible to actually maintain.
You know, even at the very foundation of our networks, we've been held back by some old-school protocols. For years, Spanning Tree Protocol, or STP, was a necessary evil to prevent network loops. But it came at a huge cost. It actively blocked redundant paths, which meant you had underutilized bandwidth, and it needed constant, complex fine-tuning. This forced us into network designs that were fragile and didn't really make good use of all that expensive gear you paid for.
Okay, so with all those problems piling up, it was pretty clear the industry needed a totally new approach. And that's exactly where Cisco SD Access comes in, built on this principle of intent-based networking.
So the core idea here is a massive shift from telling the network how to do something to just telling it what you want. Instead of writing thousands of lines of code to configure ports and VLANs, you just state your business intent. You say something simple like, isolate all my IoT cameras from the employee network. And the system, it just takes that high-level goal and automatically translates it into all the detailed configurations across the entire network. It's a huge change.
And really, this is what SD Access boils down to all in one sentence. It's about creating one unified policy in one cohesive network fabric that works seamlessly for every single user, every device, and every application. Doesn't matter if they're plugged in with a cable or connecting over Wi-Fi.
Okay, that all sounds amazing, right? But how does it actually work? To deliver on that promise of a single unified policy, SD Access uses this core concept called a network fabric. So let's break down what that really is.
Think of it like this. You have your physical network, the switches, the routers, the cables. We call that the underlay. The fabric is a virtual network, an overlay that runs right on top of it. And that abstraction, that's the magic key. It hides all the crazy complexity of the physical world and lets you create multiple, completely independent logical networks on the very same hardware.
And this picture right here, it lays it all out for us perfectly. At the bottom, you've got the physical underlay, the actual hardware. In the middle, you see the fabric overlay. That's the virtual network where all the intelligence lives. And sitting right on top is the brain of the whole operation, the controller, which is called Cisco DNA Center. Let's zoom in on that control layer, the brains of the whole thing. Cisco DNA Center is your central command console. You can think of it as the network's architect. It's where you design your policies and provision all your devices. But it works hand in hand with Cisco's Identity Services Engine, or ISE. Now here's the difference. If DNA Center is the architect drawing the blueprints, ISE is the security guard at every single door, checking IDs, figuring out who you are, and enforcing the access rules from those blueprints. Together, they orchestrate and secure the entire fabric.
And the workflow inside DNA Center is this really elegant, continuous loop. You start with design, where you lay out your network sites and IP schemes. Then you define your business goals and policy. You know, who gets to talk to what. DNA Center then automatically provisions all the devices to build out the fabric for you. And finally, the assurance engine is constantly monitoring the network's health, making sure it's doing what you intended and giving you these incredible insights if anything starts to go wrong.
Okay, so we've covered the old problems and the new architecture. But what does this actually mean for you in the real world? Let's talk about the tangible benefits you get from moving to an SD access fabric.
Wow, okay. This view really gives you the whole shebang. It's not just one little feature, it's a whole suite of powerful capabilities all working together. We're going to break down some of the most important ones here: automation, security, and mobility.
The biggest win, right out of the gate, is automation and simplicity. Your entire network is managed from one dashboard. Spanning tree? Gone. It's replaced by modern routing with something called equal cost multipathing, which means all your links are active and being used. And here's a real game changer for the ops teams. Deploying new gear is transformed with plug and play, or PNP. A new switch can be shipped to a remote office, plugged in by someone who isn't even a tech, and it automatically finds the DNA Center and downloads its entire configuration. That just slashes operational costs and deployment times.
Now this is a monumental shift in how we think about security. In the old world, your security policy was tied to a physical port or a static IP address. In SD Access, policy is tied directly to a user's identity. Just think about what that means for a second. Your access rights automatically follow you, whether you're at your desk plugged in a conference room on Wi-Fi, or even in a totally different building. The network always knows who you are and what you're allowed to touch.
And security in SD Access is so powerful because it gives you two distinct layers of segmentation. First, you've got virtual networks, or VNs. This is for your big macro segmentation. It's like building completely separate private highways on the same physical road. One for your corporate traffic, one for IoT devices, one for guests. They can't even see each other. Then, within each of those highways, you can use something called scalable group tags, or SGTs, for microsegmentation. This is like controlling which cars can talk to which cars in the very same lane. It's an absolutely incredible level of granular control.
So let's pull all these threads together. What we're really talking about here isn't just adding a few new features. It's a fundamental change in how we think about networking, shifting from a model that's defined by its limitations to one that's driven purely by your intent. And this slide right here, this is the beautiful end state we've been building towards. On the exact same physical hardware, you can run completely isolated virtual networks. Here, we see an IoT network for cameras and sensors running right alongside the main employee network. They're totally separate, totally secure, each with their own unique policies, but you manage it all from one central place. That's agility and security in action.
At the end of the day, it's the business impact that really counts, right? And it all comes down to speed, efficiency, and being more resilient. You can adapt your network to new business needs in hours instead of weeks. You can solve user issues way faster because you have better visibility. And you can contain security threats, stopping them from moving across the network, which dramatically reduces the impact of any potential breach.
So, we'll leave you with this question to think about for your own environment. Is your network describing your intent, or is it defining your limits? For way too long, our networks have told us what's possible. The whole goal of this new paradigm is to flip that around and create a network that truly enables your business goals